Call to order the Tuesday, April 12, 2022 Town Council Committee of the Whole regular meeting to order at 6:31. All councilors are present with the exception of Councilor Bordelon and Councilor McBride. Calendar and Communications, Councilor Jones.
The only thing that I attended this week was the moving of the Mayflower, which is pretty cool to see, and it's nice to see them do it. Good turnout from people watching on the sides. So, other than that, we're good.
Councilor Kassiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have had 2 budget sessions since our last meeting on Wednesday and Saturday, and I received various emails about the Board of Ed, voting districts, the tax abatement for fire and officer spouses, data centers, and an excellent press release about our new public safety community outreach specialist, which is exciting news for our police department. Thank you.
Thank you. I was able to attend the Thrive 55 volunteer appreciation celebration. It was hosted at the Mystic Luxury Cinema, and I just want to thank Tommy Stanley for organizing that and inviting me to the festivities. Councilor Franco.
Thank you. I also attended budget sessions, a variety of communications, and also just a note, there is on Tuesday nights out at the roller rink out here outside of the Senior Center Library, there's rollerblading hockey, and on Tuesdays I believe the young kids are coming, and on Thursdays for older kids, and I stopped out there tonight and chatted, and it's basically pickup. It's not organized, it's anybody's welcome, and I guess last week they had about 40 kids. So it's really nice to hear that they're doing this and pickup games are happening here, and I'd love to go out and sit and watch them tonight. So, and I'm sure there's other things, but that's it for now. Thanks.
Councilor Parker.
I'm going to repeat what, actually I'm just going to say Councilor Kassiri already said most of the information about the budget and the communications, but I also attended the Thrive 55 volunteer event that was just very well handled, and thank you to all that participated, all the volunteers, and the people who put it together, because it takes a lot to do everything, and like I said, I love to help out, so thank you guys for letting me do that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Westervelt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too got a lot of comments, questions about the budget and how things were going with that. A lot of concern that we are spending the ARPA money rather quickly, and we haven't even talked to the facilitator about that. So that came from a number of people, as well as questions on how we actually conduct business.
Councilor Baumgartner.
No report.
All right. Approval of minutes can be found on page 2. I make a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of March 22nd, 2022. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Franco. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That carries unanimously. 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. On to new business. FYE 2022 fourth quarter transfers can be found on page 10. I make a motion to recommend a resolution to approve FYE 2022 fourth quarter transfers. So moved.
Kassiri, second.
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Kassiri.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Could we also add and to refer to the matter to RTM?
Okay.
Just to be clear, because it does say it in the alternatives.
Okay.
Also of note, do we need to say what the dollar amount is?
That would be Mr. Burke's question.
It's up to you. I mean,
we've got it on that page, so.
Okay.
I mean, the resolution is what really counts, so.
Okay.
Cindy, do you agree with that?
Yes.
Oh, so you're
They
saying,
could, because you're just making the motion here to make them pass the resolution, looking for my resolution. The resolution definitely says refer to RTM.
okay, so you're saying, because this is the cow, we just,
Right.
the basics will do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Manager Burt?
Cindy's actually handling this.
I'll take this one.
All right, thank you. Director Landry?
Good evening, everyone. The town charter provides for supplemental appropriations to the adopted budget as well as transfers of contingency, and also provides for the transfer between funds for the last 3 months of the year. Transfers or supplemental appropriations over $10,000 also must be referred to the RTM. So usually this time of year I come to you with those accounts that have been we expect to be overdrawn at year end for unexpended costs not part of the adopted budget. So this year I'm coming with 3 fourth quarter transfers, one being for voter registration. There was a Democratic primary that was not included in the 22 budget. Excuse me?
Oh, no.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Continue?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We have legal services, the cost of delinquent tax collections, and some outside opinions. We expect to have overdrawn that line item. And in the human resources budget, we have accumulated payouts, which were for 2 positions that retired. So the total of the transfers is $104,548. We had appropriated $350,000 for contingency, and we had a prior transfer of $9,000. So with the approval of the fourth quarter transfers, it will leave a balance of approximately $236,000 in the contingency fund. So I'll answer any questions if you have them. I'll try.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? All right. I'm not seeing any. So with that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That carries unanimously. 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On to approval of an ordinance to establish a property tax abatement for surviving spouses of fallen emergency workers, can be found on page 14.
I can read that one, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
I will make a motion to move to recommend an adoption of ordinance for a tax abatement program for the surviving spouse of a police officer, firefighter, or emergency medical technician to the town council and the representative town meeting. I so move.
Second, Parker.
Moved by Kasiri, seconded by Parker. Any discussion from the council? All right. I'm not seeing any. So I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? That carries unanimously. 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. On to Neighborhood Assistance Act 2022, can be found on page 19. I make a motion to recommend a resolution to schedule a public hearing for the Neighborhood Assistance Act Tax Credit Program on May 3rd, 2022. So moved.
Second, Parker.
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Parker. Director Reiner?
Good evening, everyone. John Reiner, Director of Planning and Development Services. With me here tonight is Paige Bronk, our Economic and Community Development Manager. So just very briefly, the Neighborhood Assistance Act.
The mic.
Oh,
Sorry.
nope. Thought it was picking me up. Obviously, it wasn't. Every year we come back to the council. So the Neighborhood Assistance Act really is just a pass-through that we're looking at for consistency. It's a tax credit project that we put out, that the state puts out, that we help just facilitate the process, and the town has to have a public hearing on this. What we're looking for tonight, Paige can speak about the projects if there's any questions that folks have, but tonight we're looking to schedule the public hearing. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a rushed council process to get that public hearing scheduled, because some of the deadlines of these are tight and they kind of get announced quickly, and then the time frame to do it is a little shorter. But really what we're looking for tonight is to recommend the public hearing for the May 3rd council meeting, and at our next COW meeting there'll be a council meeting also that evening to then set the public hearing. And really, it's a tax credit program, the Neighborhood Assistance Act, to provide funding for municipal and tax-exempt organizations by providing a corporate business tax credit for businesses that make cash contributions to these entities. Again, happy to talk about any specifics about the Neighborhood Assistance Act, but tonight we're really here just to get that public hearing scheduled.
All right, questions from the council? Councilor Franco?
I just wanted to notate, so if anybody's watching, the organizations that applied, can you just say who they are and how much they're asking for?
Sure.
Thank you. We have,
Not asking for, actually, but going
sure,
to try and
we
get
have
something.
5 submittals. Bill Memorial Library, Community of Hope, Odd Fellows, Riverfront Children's Center, and Sacred Heart School.
Thank you.
Sure.
Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are we able to ask questions about this, or is this just the public hearing?
You can ask questions.
I just don't quite understand how it works with the tax credit, what it means. So are they receiving money, or are they? I just don't quite
Yes.
understand.
I think it's important to realize it's a state program, but we're a pass-through entity. So basically, the entities that apply use the state's application, and they meet certain criteria. There are 2 different categories that they could go for. They're described here in the referral. The one that most of them use deals with energy conservation. I think the lion's share that we've received over the years deal with that, and that's 100% of the cash value. So dollar for dollar, whatever the needs are, let's say it's a $100,000 project, basically a business who is or a corporation seeking a credit will get a credit for $100,000 when they write a check to this organization who has a need for that $100,000. So the state gives the tax credit to the corporation for giving the value to the entity who needed to do that particular project. That's the first category. The second category, which we don't see that much, is referenced as the 60% value. So that would be more for job training, education, community services, more or less kind of a catch-all for everything else, but that's not dollar for dollar. That's 60% of the value, but it works the same way with the credit.
So a company, let's just like a window company, gives $100,000 of windows to one of these firms. That company gets a tax credit equal to the amount of money that they gave.
They wouldn't be necessarily trades type companies, like it would be a window company. I believe like utility companies would qualify. They have to actually qualify under the state's rules as to what category of company they are. I'm not an expert in that particular end of it, but it wouldn't be like the window company, the company who actually installs the windows. It would be a separate corporation who receives the tax credit. That corporation, my understanding, literally writes the check to one of the entities who needs the 100,000 hypothetical, who then would go and hire the contractor for the windows, the roofs, or whatever they're doing.
Okay. So it's companies that give credit, they give a donation to one of these organizations, and then they were able to write off
Yes.
that money off of their taxes.
Right.
Okay. So if they weren't able to go out and find a company to donate to them, they wouldn't be able to use it, right? Or do they have, these people have active programs looking for people to donate to them?
I think that there's a long list of corporations that are looking for those
That are
tax
looking to do
credits.
it. Okay.
I believe in here there was a description of the cap. Yeah, the program cap is $5 million. So I think that's more likely to occur than running out of corporations looking for the tax credit.
Okay.
We have done well, though, on getting ours funded in the past. Last year, all of them were funded, I believe, about a similar number around there.
So do these companies put out their needs, and then they're sort of matched up with a company that can service those needs, and they get a
Yes.
tax break for doing that? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Good. And it's managed by the state?
That's correct. We are responsible for the intake on the applications. We're responsible for the documentation, bringing it before the council, forwarding the applications to the state, and in some cases, we're responsible for ensuring some compliance, but that's a fairly minimal process.
So we're sort of a middleman in between
Yes.
all the parts and
Exactly.
facilitating the whole process.
Right.
So, okay. Good. All right. Thank you.
Councilor Westervelt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there any requirement in this project or in this situation where they use local contractors and local businesses? Or is this open for, they can get contracts from anywhere?
To my understanding, there's no requirement for local contractor.
Thank you.
All right, see no further discussion. I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That carries unanimously, 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. On to Small Cities Community Development Block Grant 2022 application. Can be found on page 59.
I'll take a motion.
Thank you.
I make a motion to recommend a resolution to schedule a public hearing for the Small Cities Community Block Grant Program on May 3rd, 2022. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Parker, seconded by Franco.
Okay, again, so every year, every couple of years, we look to apply for community development block grant funds. We have been incredibly successful with these grants over the past 8 to 10 years. Last year, we were not eligible to apply for one. The previous year, we had received a $1.5 million community development block grant, and it takes some time to spend that money down before you can go and apply for the next grant. You have to expend a certain amount of the funding and have a certain amount of work done. The current project that we had received the $1.5 million for was a housing modernization with the Groton Housing Authority, and we're looking to have that project completed by 2022. This next grant round that we're looking to do again with the Groton Housing Authority is a $2 million project at Grasso Gardens, again modernizing some of the existing housing there, looking to upgrade ADA accessibility, unit upgrades, install a backup generator, as well as other housing and energy improvements. And this is the highest amount that's eligible for a single housing authority under this program. Again, a little bit of an expedited process on this. This is an application that we've been working with the Housing Authority with for some time. This has been on our radar and theirs for a number of months, longer than that. And we knew the application was going to be coming soon, but just in the last couple of weeks, the state announced the deadline. So again, we have to have that public hearing scheduled for May 3rd. There will be a special council meeting at the next COW to just get that public hearing scheduled. After the public hearing, there will be a number of decisions the council has to make. We kind of put at the end of that referral a few of the steps that do have to go through. One of the items that we will be looking to do with this application is to use $100,000 matching funds from our program income. That was something over the past 2-3 months or so. We went through a public hearing process to change the plan for how we can utilize CDBG program income that we have. So happy to answer any questions about this. Again, tonight we're looking to just schedule the public hearing, and this would be federal funding that would be reinvested in housing within Groton that is managed by the Housing Authority.
Thank you. Councilor Kassiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Director Reiner, Mr. Brunk. It says in here that additional funding will be applied for under other agencies. Can you just go over what you will also be applying for?
Sure. Recently, obviously, we partner with the project entity. In this case, it's Groton Housing Authority. In the past, it's been others like Mystic River Homes. But in this instance, we learned a few weeks ago from the Department of Housing that they are working with CHAFA. It's the Connecticut Housing and Finance Agency. CHAFA is the acronym. And the state's Department of Housing and CHAFA are interested in partnering this year so that they can best combine their funding, their available funding for affordable housing for the best projects in the state. We learned in mid-March that the Groton Housing Authority had conversations with both Department of Housing and CHAFA about this potential, and that the Groton Housing Authority has been invited to apply under this larger agreement for additional funds. So what happens usually with these projects is there's a layering of financing. So the CDBG funding will be one base layer, but that's approved by the Department of Housing. That will be used in leveraging additional funds through CHAFA, possibly through they have a 4% low-income housing tax credit program. So we're basically looking to take the CDBG money and leverage additional millions on top of it. We think that the odds are high, nothing's guaranteed, but we think it's a worthy endeavor given 2 state agencies have recognized this project and have encouraged us to collaborate.
Great. So we could potentially be getting millions more for this project with what
Yes.
you're saying? Great. All right. Thank you very much.
Councilor Franco.
Thank you. And this is for Grasso Gardens, which is a community, and it states here the minimum age requirement is 62 with exceptions for disabilities, and that tenants pay 30% of their income and thusly serve a population that is, in many cases, has no other housing options. And all of the tenants are classified as low income, and there's an actual waiting list for these facilities, and apartments are turned over very quickly by an efficient maintenance system. So I think the $2 million would cover unit upgrades, install a new backup generator, as well as other housing and energy improvements. And it says, I believe I read in here that they had not received any funding in the past for these type of things. Is that correct, since they've been built?
Not for this particular work. Years back, we've worked with the Groton Housing Authority in gaining CDBG funding to help them with their projects, but not for this specific scope of work.
Okay. I'm, of course, all in favor of it going to public hearing. And actually, my grandmother had spent her final years living here at Grasso Gardens, and I think it's invaluable to our community and the people that it serves. And I really hope you guys can get all that money and do some magic over there, and some renovations would be wonderful. Thank you.
Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Ryan, can you talk a little bit about, you said we qualify for this upper level and to go for this bigger grant. Can you just talk a little bit about what are the good things that we have done that allow us to get recognition and approval for going to the higher levels?
I think Groton certainly has, our name recognition has increased over the years, statewide. I also think that that's mainly as a result of some of our growth prospects, possibly, but also there are significant needs. And I think that the communication between us here locally, when I say us, that's all of our nonprofits and our partners, et cetera, communicating with the state, saying we have true needs. We have needs for housing. We have needs for rehab. We need more units. I think that may be resonating at the state level. And then it's important for them to have shovel-ready projects. There are a lot of communities that have all kinds of ideas, but might not ever get to the finish line. And I think the fact that we have this existing project, they know that it's a need with the Groton Housing Authority, and that the town has exhibited interest in using our CDBG round, partnering with CHAFA. I think that they're interested in working with a project that they can actually see is feasible. I think that's probably what's caught their attention.
In addition, they've also recognized that we've received a significant number of CDBG grants from them in the past, have successfully managed those. So previously, the grant rounds that we were getting were always around the $800,000 mark. The last one that we got at that, I think it was 1.5 or a little bit over $1.5 million was a significant increase. So they're recognizing not only the need, but also I think they have faith that we can successfully manage these projects and that the money's going to a very good place and doing great things here.
So we're good stewards of the process and the money, and the need is there. So,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That carries unanimously. 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Thank you. On to Community Challenge Grant. Can be found on page 61.
Okay, so we're not looking for any action tonight from the council, but instead we wanted to introduce the State of Connecticut Community Challenge Grant to the council, talk to you a little bit about the parameters of this grant, and get some general buy-in that this is something the council wants us to work on and start moving forward. This will take a significant amount of staff time, resources, and we can't stress enough the importance of this grant is really looking at public and private partnerships, bringing businesses together, bringing the town and other nonprofits together to create permanent jobs, grow the grand list, help with placemaking, and looking at really helping to boost the local economy in a permanent and positive way. So the State of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, their Office of Brownfields, has issued this notice of funding. So they had issued a notice of funding, I think it was early or mid last year. They had a first grant round. We did not feel prepared at that point in time to put a project together. It was something that came out, but the grant awards do range between $1 and $10 million. The state did just issue their first round of awards on this, and we've done some analysis looking at those awards of what it is that they're looking for, and we think we have some really good ideas for project and project area to start with, to then start bringing that down. And again, I can't stress enough, this grant, it's an economic and business development incentive program. Open space and recreation projects will not score well unless they're a small component of the larger scope of the project. One potential target area that we've really been looking at, and I know we've all been talking about for helping revitalizing Groton, is our downtown area, extending north to the 117 and the Claude-Chester, Sutton Park area. So as we're thinking about where can this grant be, it doesn't have to just be one parcel or one project, one small area. We're looking to cast a net really to start with from basically Sutton Park all the way to Drostick Drive and going as far north as Grassville Gardens. Because again, we're looking to leverage local funding, private funding with this state funding, and even leveraging ARPA funding as part of this to show how we're going to invest in this area. Again, can't stress enough, a needed component of the grant is job and business growth, and that's why, we're looking at some of these ideas. We're thinking about the shopping centers, we're thinking about Chelsea Groton, the new proposed Rogers development or redevelopment of the old massage school, which is going to create commercial space and residential space, as well as other private development initiatives. And real economic drivers for the return on investment. We have to do calculations on return on investment as part of the application for this. New open space they don't really have a calculation or for how that generates additional jobs as part of this. It doesn't mean it can't be a component, but I know that's a big discussion we've been having in town about the future of Chester and some other properties around that area. So again, we need to show growth in jobs, grand list, housing, transportation, and infrastructure. And the more private matching funding we have, the better our scope and our proposal will score. We expect, the state is not announced yet when the next round is going to be out there. We're expecting it to be sometime in the summer of 2022. And really what the state is looking for project and project ideas in these successful grants are going to include the following elements, whether it's transit-oriented development, downtown major hub development or redevelopment that uses brownfields where possible, essential infrastructure that facilitates future development, housing to support affordability, accessibility, and local workforce, mobility improvements. So when we start talking about that connectivity and placemaking, and those things that help promote economic activity, ADA, bicycle improvements, as well as public space improvements that provide amenities to the community, which does include open spaces, public art, wayfinding, lighting, and safety improvements. So we feel that we are very well positioned. One of the benefits that we have, so Groton is a distressed community, and a significant amount of the funding that the state wants to put towards this is towards distressed communities. And really what we're looking to do tonight is we can talk a little bit about some more ideas and some specifics. We don't need to define the actual project tonight, but this is going to take a lot of staff time, a lot of effort. We want to get some understanding and buy-in from the council on how we could move forward with this. And, we think our initial first steps, if the council gives a head nod, is we need to start reaching out to private businesses, which we have done things like that in the past for other grants to try to leverage their projects with some of the things that we're applying for and convene these private businesses to see who is actually interested in investing in their property if we can leverage some other funds. And we don't want to just have people that, I think I'm going to do something. We need commitments. We need written commitments. We need them to show that they're actually going to move things forward. And that's why some of these project or shovel-ready projects are the ones that we're really looking to target. So successful communities that received money in the first round did dedicate a significant amount of staff time to this, and they had really detail-oriented investment proposals. It's really important that we, as a town, as a council, come together and figure out what we want to do, and there's full buy-in. I don't know if there's anything else Paige wants to add in.
That was a fairly comprehensive overview, but just to stress the point again about economic, there are two, within your packet, there's a NOFA listing, a notice of funding availability. And there are two categories. One deals with economic impact. The second is shovel readiness. So under economic impact, you have to assume that the bullets that they provide are going to translate into how they evaluate the proposal. And they talk about return on investment. Also local match versus share of total cost. The DECD share of the total cost, the state's share. The total debt leverage, the private debt leverage. So that gets to the partnerships that we'll be looking for with private properties. Job creation, permanent, full-time, equivalent, direct, increase in tax contribution, increase in grand list, increase in property value, and then under shovel readiness, the level of planning drawings, conceptual, 30%, 60%, 90% complete, and the assembly of funding, or the capital stack. So the reason I go through that is to indicate that this is something that they'll evaluate us on. How much money are we bringing to the table? How much money do they have to put on the table? What are we going to get in terms of return on investment? So it is definitely driven from an economic vantage.
Thank you. Okay, so basically what you need from the council is, do we want you to move forward with trying to get this grant with the knowledge that it's going to take a lot of staff time? Is that sort of what you're asking?
Yes, but also we're going to be looking to all of you for leadership on this and some buy-in. As we move this forward, we want to keep all of you in the loop. One of the difficult things, as I'm saying, oh yes, it's going to take a lot of staff time, I'm also 2 people short right now. One of my planners is leaving at the end of next week, and another one, we haven't been able to fill the role yet, the one that manages our CDBG program, which is incredibly busy right now. So we are on fumes a little bit right now, but we feel that this is an opportunity that we need to apply for, that we need to try to put something together. We would like to go for a big hit on this, and we think we could focus on, something a little bit more of a smaller component. Some communities received a $1 million grant. Some of them were getting $6 million. We'd like to go for something big and try to find what that connection is, but a lot of it's going to be very dependent on what the private side is willing to do right now.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely supportive of you guys putting something together, and anything you need going forward. I'd be, I'd put in that feedback then, but as of right now, I'm very supportive of you guys moving forward with this. Councilor Franco?
Thank you. I did send an email to the town manager and the mayor recently about this grant, and I'm sure you're having talks with town staff about this as well. So my question is to focus more on what is the role of the town council going to be in this, and what are your needs going to be from us? And because I'm looking at this as a collective group effort from all of us, as all town councilors, to try and work towards achieving this. Because if we don't, we could literally be leaving, the grants open to communities between $1 and $10 million, and we could be leaving that on the table. And some other community could get that money where, it could really benefit us. So what can the council do to try and work towards really trying to achieve this?
One thing I'd like to say is I think we're going to need staff to come here often, getting input. What we don't want to do is a separate committee, because we won't get done in time.
Right.
So it's got to be staff-led, but I think they need to often come here to get input.
To get input, and also we're going to need decisions. We're going to be putting a lot of information out to you in a relatively quick time frame to try to define what the project is. And it often, we don't want to be the bear going after the whole stream full of salmon and just like getting, that young bear, and which one, there's so many. We got to find a way to focus on what is something we can get those partners that are willing to step up and commit. All right, that's going to help define the scope of where we're looking. Something that helps frame that scope too is, where are we investing money? So as we're looking to invest ARPA funding and other town funding through our capital projects, a lot of that can help be used towards the match, or showing what we're targeting for investment in that area. So that's why, I look at from Sutton Park going, a bit west from there, because all of that area, there's a lot of investment happening there. There's conversations, difficult conversations we're going to have about the future of Claude Chester. What do we want to see happen there? There's a lot of opportunities. We're going to have to think about that town green. Now, fortunately, we are moving forward with Kent and Frost, working with our Parks and Rec department to do a little bit of a visioning for that area. So we're going to try to work that process into how we're moving forward with this, but that's focused more on like the Parks and Rec side, the open space side of things, while we're also looking at business and investment opportunities. And there's some things that we might want, but we're not able to secure or fully flesh out and put together in time to get this grant together. So
I anticipate a lot of early decisions too, because we don't want it on pieces of it head down and get way down and find out that's not what the council wants.
Right.
So we want to, really stay with the council a lot.
So I sort of envision it as a very short, this is going to be open for 5 years, is that correct? Or there's 5 rounds, let me call it rounds. And 1 round is already done, so we have 4 remaining rounds. I don't know how quickly they're going to come out, because the last one I believe was opened, application deadline was in December, and now this one I believe might be in August, if I read it correctly in the news, on the state website. So these might be coming quick. They're not, we have a long time to decide these. So if, in this short process, will there be time for also like some public input to hear what the community wants after we get to a certain stage of this?
yeah, I think we certainly, with anything that we do, we want to have community input. I think we also want to be cognizant of putting together a solid application. So if we get to a point where there's just too many decisions and the council can't move forward, well, then the council collectively can say, you know what, pause, we're skipping this round. We think this is too big of a project, there's too much, let's go for the next round. That is something that can always happen too, but the longer we wait, who knows how budgets change and how, you kind of want to strike while the iron's hot on this.
And we can apply for each of the next 4 rounds as well. Is that correct?
I'm not 100% sure, but, I think a lot of...
I believe New London was, they were granted some money in round 1, and
Yes.
from what I hear, they are preparing for round 2.
Correct, and they could be preparing, usually with projects, with funding like this, the state, or any state, when they do a project like this, likes to spread the money around.
Okay.
So if we said, let's apply 4 times for small projects, we're not going to get four grants of it. So we do want to try to focus on what can we submit this round. It will then take some time to manage that project and show success. And if it's anything like some of the other projects we deal with, they usually like to see that you're a certain point ahead in implementing that project before they give you money for the next one.
Right, and round 1 had between $20 and $50 million, and 50% was earmarked towards disadvantaged communities.
Yeah.
In which we've been designated. So I think that would put us at a step up, and I am in favor of all of us collectively working together and trying our absolute best as a council as a whole to try and achieve this. And I thank you for bringing this forward and having the discussion, and I'm absolutely all in favor of it. And I might need to know more information on what public-private partnerships really are, because in this aspect, because I don't think we've had them where we've given money, but I don't know exactly how this would work out in this with this kind of grant. So I'm all in favor. Thank you so much.
Councilor Kassiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am glad that you brought up the fact that we're starting to invest in that specific area. And for those that are watching that don't know and haven't been watching the budget sessions, we just approved a CIP to use ARPA funds to update Sutton Park. And we also approved a CIP on Saturday about potentially maybe revamping and upgrading the community center. So Groton is investing in that area because we really do want a centralized location for our community. And I think one of the biggest suggestions, wants, complaints that I heard when I was campaigning to be in the seat is downtown Groton, downtown Groton, downtown Groton. So if there is anything that we can do to focus % supportive, because that is truly a community desire that I've heard. So thank you very much. I'm 100% on board for this.
Yeah, loud and clear on that. And when the first round of this grant came out, we looked at options. We talked about it internally a lot because we saw this as a great opportunity, and we would love to focus solely on downtown Groton. The tricky part is getting the property owners to invest. And if we can now we have Chelsea Groton investing in that area. That's a significant amount of money. And what else could we do around that could help spur other development? We have some ideas. We're going to be talking to some property owners, and it might end up being that, all right, we say the first round we're going to focus more specifically on downtown or a different area, knowing that maybe round 4, if it comes through, we can focus on another area, or maybe we just go all in on round 1 and connect it all. So I think as a little bit of time goes on, we'll have a better feel for that too.
I just wanted to add as well, it is about partnerships too. So when we speak with property owners, it's about trying to entice them and bring them to the table. And we're going to be curious to know, what are you going to offer? If we're going to go after additional funding for this corridor, what can you commit to and put in writing? And that's a part of that economic equation. But I think that's really important. We're in a difficult retail environment, and people, they would like to see better retail offerings. Nationwide, retail's suffering. And I've been told, and over the next few years, you may see 40–50% of the existing retailers not there, simply because of the downtrend in retail. So it's not about just filling a storefront, but what are we going to do to give us a leg up? And that's where the partnership comes in. If you put X on the table, what can we do with this grant to help you to maybe bridge that gap to give us the best competitive advantage?
Thank you. Councilor Westervelt?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just to let you guys know, I think this is a great idea. I think it's a huge opportunity for Groton. We haven't had a lot of this, but as I'm looking at this, wheels are turning into how all of these successful projects, these examples, can work here in Groton, and with some of the stuff that we've been talking about in the last few months. So I'm excited to see how it'll go. Thank you very much.
Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if I understand this right, all of the bullet points that you listed here, those are all the things that go around a project. So a developer would come to do something, and we would support the stuff around that project, whether it's making transportation better or the access better or whatever it needs. That's the right way, right?
Yeah, so it doesn't need all of these elements. So we don't need to have a TOD and this and this and this and this, but it's going to include many of those elements. And the more of those things that we can include, again, showing investment from the private side as well as investment from the town, and then that DECD investment in there, that's what's going to score the highest.
And are these the kinds of things that a developer would be looking for that might help them pick Groton as the place to come, because there's some public money to help them do the things that they might have had to do, but now they won't. They can work with the town and sort of facilitate all of that.
Yes, very much so. So, one small program that we've used in the past many times that a number of you are quite familiar with, our Economic Development Assistance Fund. That is something that the town historically has always put money through our CIP into this account. We then use that money, not a lot, to leverage helping other businesses expand and grow or locate here in Groton. So that right there is a public-private partnership where we put a little bit in to help them get past a certain threshold, whether it's for stormwater improvements, sidewalk improvements, some of it could be for building facade, things that fall in here. There's a lot of things that could fall into that for investment that if the public side just helps it get a little bit further along, it makes the difference between a project happening and not happening.
So is this sort of a super version of that? This
Yes.
is like the Big Brother version of that?
Correct.
That program.
And then combine that with the fact that we're investing millions of dollars through ARPA. Again, what have we been talking about when we first came with ARPA? We said we don't want to spend the money, we want to invest the money. This is a way of investing that money and not only seeing private growth multiply it, but then additional outside state money come in and help add to that multiplier effect.
I think we've been dancing around the ARPA a little bit. I just want to be really clear. The state will allow ARPA funding as a match. I think that was inherent in our conversation, but to be perfectly clear, they actually explicitly stated that with the first round.
Do you have developers that are sort of hanging on the fence right now or expressing interest that by you applying for this will help to bring them? I mean, I know the time frame isn't really long, but you have other rounds, so if you can't hit the August one, you hit others. But are there people sort of that you're talking to on a daily basis that are looking to invest in these areas, and something like this would help move them forward?
Yes, I do think so. There are some developers that are now starting to move things through the process. There are constantly developers that are reaching out to us looking for properties, looking to do projects within Groton. Some of the problem is finding just the land or the availability, or the cost of revitalizing that property can often be too expensive. And that's where, you know, it just doesn't pan out from a numbers and cents. So some of this can help.
This is where that would help.
This can certainly help. And then also, you know, if there's more beautification. So if we're doing sidewalk and roadway, streetscape improvements, and helping other surrounding businesses with building facade improvements, all of those things are going to help bring an area up, bring surrounding property values up, and make people want to invest more within their property too.
So it's kind of an exciting time for Groton to, if we get this, for moving our businesses and developments forward. So, cool. All right. Yeah, no, I 100% support the effort to go ahead and move on it. So,
Councilor Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in support. That's, you know me. I'm in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion on this? Councilor Franco?
So now that you seem to have gotten our support, what's the next move? When will you be back?
Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks anyway. We're at basically every council meeting anyway, so let us see what we can do. And
Once it gets going, I see a minimum of every other cow.
Yeah.
Probably more.
All right. I look forward to it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, if you're not sick of seeing us already, you will be soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to Counselor Mediator, can be found on page 69. Counselor Parker, do you want to give the background on this?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've had some interesting meetings, and there are times that things are not moving productively or effectively, and I feel that we need someone to come in and either guide us or, guide us and give us tips on how best to approach things, how best to do everything, because I think we're setting ourselves back. Meetings shouldn't take a long time. I know there's many discussions, but if we come even more prepared than we normally are, I think we can get through meetings more efficiently and take care of the town over and over again. And sometimes the meetings are not, no offense to the mayor, let me say this out loud, he's doing a wonderful job, but there are times that our meetings are not running smoothly. And this, I don't know how the public feels, but, well, I've heard from the public. I know when I leave a meeting, my anxiety's up, and I don't think we've accomplished anything at all. And I really need us to get back on track. And I love what I do for the public. I love volunteering, and this is a volunteer job for everyone. And some of us work 40 hours a week plus sometimes, and we need to all be respectful of each other's time and the public's time. So hence why I would love someone to come in and provide an in-depth talk, guidance, and basically tell us what we're doing wrong if they have to. Because if we don't get this going, we're never going to be able to have productive meetings, and the public is always going to be either upset with us or calling us and telling us, you guys did that wrong. Bring someone in who can guide us so we can have great meetings. Thank you.
All right.
Want me to just say what I found out
Yeah.
there? This, I think it was January, this referral was first put out, whenever it was. I just did some reaching out to some colleges. I heard of a couple professors. Those fell through. They're just too busy. CCM has one attorney they highly recommend it to their different municipalities. He does a lot of different municipal work. So I had a pretty big conversation with him. Now, of course, there's attorney cost, but the municipal rate is $275 an hour. Otherwise, it'd be $450. But they review it. He would essentially the gist of it is, and it kind of depends what he finds when he gets in there. But review footage of some of the meetings, review our charter and council rules, meet first with the mayor and then individual councilors to see what they're seeing. Maybe even in small groups, 2 or 3 at a time, to see how it goes, listen to what they have to say. And ultimately, depending on if he sees a path to helping, then there'd be some, actually meeting with the council to give some guidance, but there'd also be a written report one way or another on what he's seeing. So I imagine a lot of, if you use an attorney type one, that's a lot of the type of thing you would see.
Councilor Franco?
Would he give us, would this be done publicly, or would it be an executive session, or would
I
it
actually
be?
called, he'd asked about doing it in executive session because it's not really something you'd want to do out in public. So I called Tom Hennick, and there's a couple of ways it could be done. There's a couple of things that are allowed per FOIA to do that.
Right.
Now, the individual meetings, of course, would just be off individually, but.
Right. Would he also educate at all on rules and how they'd apply to us in our role as a town councilor?
We can tailor it to what we want to.
Okay. So when it comes to executives, I'm in favor of this, so I'll just start off with that. Being on the council for over 4 years now, it was phenomenal when I would say probably the first almost 2 years, and things have changed a lot, and I see many challenges, and I think it's getting more difficult as time goes on. And I can't speak for anybody else, but I wouldn't, regardless of what he had to say about myself and corrective criticism, I wouldn't have a problem with it being actually public. But I know it's also, about how people are doing their jobs and, critique.
And I think that
And I
can be
don't know if it's-
decided once you kind of see where you're at, and then council can decide which way they want to do it.
Right, and it's up to, individuals, and I think we should respect everybody's thoughts on whether they would want it publicly or not, but I wouldn't have an issue with that. And I would take it, recommendations from somebody who would help make it better for myself as well as the whole council as a whole. And I will say that I believe like tonight's meeting was a good meeting. There's nothing controversial on here at all. But I will bring up like Saturday's budget meeting. There were controversial things on there and people were very passionate about, but there was a lot of very respectful, professional disagreements. We could disagree, and we did it in a very professional way, very respectful way, and I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. And I welcome more of that. So I am absolutely in favor of this, and I know it's going to cost money, and but I think that's the price we have to pay to get ourselves on track, to be able to move forward. And just like the last referral, it's going to take us collectively working together to be able to do this in a very short period of time and actually making decisions together. And otherwise, our community will suffer if we can't figure this out. So I am all in favor of this. Thank you.
Councilor Jones?
I'll just add my support. I think it's a good idea, and just giving us better directions, I think, is fine. And let's just give it a try and see where we get. And I think the last few meetings we've had have been pretty good, just as like Councilor Franco has said. We've been able to have good discussions. So, yeah, I would give my support for doing it.
If people wanted to kind of send me maybe an email individually of what they'd like to see out of the process, and I kind of see where goals align, and also keeping in mind the budgets and see, and I can maybe then shoot back to you a scope of work to see if you agree with it. And once we have that scope of work, I'm hoping we can, from the attorney, maybe get a little bit better idea of what the total cost will likely be with that scope. He's going to need to know the scope before he could even ballpark that.
Good.
Do you think he has? Do you think in CCM there is a something we can look at to sort of guide us on the scope of work? That would be good. Something like almost like a checklist that we could say, yeah, these are the things we want.
I'll ask.
Something to kind of get us to think a little bit better, as opposed to just off the top of our head. Might help. The things that he can or they can do, and the kind of things we should ask, I think would be helpful.
Now, he's tied up. He could do some daytime stuff, but he's tied up for the next 4 weeks. He's working with something like 6 towns on their charters. So he's pretty heavy in that kind of work. But he could do some daytimes, he said, for the individual meetings.
Okay.
Good.
Councilor Kassiri?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just because I have a feeling we're going to get asked this question, you would not recommend our own attorney doing something like this?
No, I think you need a fresh perspective.
I agree with you, but I'm assuming that we're going to get the question.
Yeah. Well, and this person really has done a lot of this. CCM, it's their top person they recommend. So
Perfect. And I am also in support of this. Thank you.
Councilor Parker?
Just one other thing. CCM is a great resource for all of us to take some training. They do have FOI and some others. I've been attending some of the meetings and rules. There's different topics, and if you guys have an opportunity, because some of them are online now, try to take some of those courses, because they give you the PDF and anything, and you can send in questions. I think between having the mediator come and trying to do training with CCM, I think we'll be okay. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Just real quick. So you want us to email you scope of work request?
Items that you'd like to see out of it, like if you had a particular type of thing you want education to be done on, that type of thing, just anything, just so I can kind of compile and see where where everybody's at on it.
Okay, and if we do decide to go forward with this, will there be like an interview process with him, or will we just bring him in?
It's professional work. I haven't found anybody else who does this. I've been checking.
All right.
Actually, why don't we get the scope of work example first, so you don't have to start from scratch.
Right.
I'll get a scope of work, and then you can tailor from there. So it'll probably be a couple days till I can get something to you.
So, and this is also, is this type of, this type of, service that he provides, it's also if we want to, we're going to get as much out of it as we're going to put into it. Is that correct?
Right.
Like, if we want to participate and listen to what he has to say and things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Councilor Kassiri?
Thank you. Also, just to jump off of what Councilor Parker was saying, CCM also offers an excellent ethics class. We've had some questions about that in the past, so I recommend it. And also, I hope if we do bring this individual on that counselors will be open to recommendations. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, seeing
Are we
none.
doing a consensus to go forward, or?
I think consensus is,
Right, you have your direction?
yeah, of the
Okay,
direction. I'll get back to you in a couple of days.
all right, any other business? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Parker?
Moved by Kasiri, seconded by Parker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned at 7:36.